Article. The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 urgent warnings, but Marcus Chen barely noticed. His knuckles were white against the steering wheel, his mind replaying the doctor's words from that morning. Your daughter has 6 months, maybe less, without the transplant. 6-year-old Emma sat in the backseat, humming softly to herself, oblivious to the financial devastation her father faced. The experimental treatment that could save her life cost more than Marcus would earn in 5 years as a warehouse supervisor. He had already sold everything, his late wife's jewelry, their small house, even his pride, but it still wasn't enough. The intersection appeared suddenly through the downpour. Marcus saw the traffic light shift to yellow, then red, but the black Tesla ahead didn't slow down. Time fractured into slow motion as the luxury sedan hydroplaned, spinning wildly across the wet asphalt before slamming into the concrete barrier with a sickening crunch of metal and glass. Marcus didn't think. He yanked the wheel right, pulling into the emergency lane, and threw the car into park. Stay here, baby, he told Emma, already unbuckling his seatbelt. She nodded, her thin face pressed against the window, watching her father sprint into the storm. The Tesla's driver's side door was crumpled inward, steam rising from the crushed hood. Through the shattered window, Marcus could see a woman slumped over the airbag, blood trickling down her temple. Her designer suit was torn, and her breathing came in shallow gasps. He tried the door, jammed. The smell of gasoline cut through the rain. Ma'am, can you hear me? Marcus shouted, his heart hammering. The woman's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy with shock. Other cars passed by, their drivers slowing to gawk before accelerating away, unwilling to get involved. Marcus understood. Nobody wanted to be a witness, to fill out police reports, to sacrifice their evening for a stranger. But he thought of Emma, of how many strangers had looked away when he desperately needed help in the past year. He thought of his wife, Sarah, who had spent her last days in a hospital surrounded by indifferent faces. He couldn't be that person. He wouldn't. The passenger door gave way after several violent yanks. Marcus crawled across broken glass, ignoring the cuts on his palms, and reached the woman. She was in her mid-30s, with sharp features softened by pain. Her eyes found his face, struggling to focus. I've got you, Marcus said, working to unbuckle her seatbelt. The gasoline smell was stronger now. We need to move. Can you feel your legs? She nodded weakly. Marcus carefully supported her weight, half carrying her away from the wreckage just as flames began licking up from beneath the hood. They collapsed together on the wet grass 30 feet away, both gasping, as the Tesla erupted into a fireball that lit up the darkening sky. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance. The woman turned her head toward Marcus, rain washing the blood from her face. You saved my life, she whispered. You could have been killed. That explosion. I couldn't leave you, Marcus said simply. He glanced back at his car, relieved to see Emma's small face still pressed against the window, safe. Are you hurt badly? Before she could answer, paramedics arrived, followed by police. The next hour blurred into statements, medical checks, and the controlled chaos of an accident scene. Marcus learned the woman's name was Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Biomedical. She was transported to the hospital with a concussion and broken ribs, while Marcus refused treatment despite his bleeding hands, anxious to get Emma home and into bed. A police officer handed him a business card. Ms. Ashford wanted you to have this. She said to call her tomorrow. Marcus pocketed it without looking, his mind already on the bills waiting at home and the medical appointment he couldn't afford to miss next week. 3 days later, his phone rang with an unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Chen, this is Victoria Ashford. I apologize for taking so long to reach out, I've been recovering. I wanted to thank you properly for saving my life. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his kitchen chair, watching Emma color at the table. I'm just glad you're okay, Ms. Ashford. Anyone would have done the same. No, her voice was firm. 3 cars passed before you stopped. I've been thinking about what you risked for a complete stranger. I'd like to meet you for coffee, if you'll allow me. I feel I owe you more than just words. He almost declined. Pride was one of the few things he had left. But something in her voice, genuine gratitude, not pity, made him agree. The coffee shop was upscale, the kind of place Marcus never entered. Victoria sat in a corner booth, her arm in a sling, a fading bruise on her cheek. She stood when she saw him, extending her good hand. "Thank you for coming," she said warmly. As they sat, she studied him with intelligent eyes. "Mr. Chen, I don't believe in coincidences. I've been doing some thinking since the accident about what matters. Tell me about yourself." "Your daughter, Emma," the officer said. "She was in the car with you that night." Marcus hesitated, then found himself talking. About Sarah's death from cancer 2 years ago. About Emma's diagnosis. About how he'd been denied by every assistance program, every charity, because their combined income before Sarah's death had been just above the cutoff lines. About how he worked double shifts but still fell further behind every month. The words poured out like water through a broken dam, all the fear and desperation he'd hidden from his daughter. Victoria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Chen, Marcus, what you did for me that night, pulling me from that car while it was about to explode, knowing your daughter was watching and might lose her only parent, that took extraordinary courage. But living what you've been living, getting up every morning for Emma despite everything, that's heroism of a different kind." She pulled out her phone, typed something, and showed him the screen. It was an email to her executive assistant. "Arrange full funding for Emma Chen's medical treatment through Ashford Biomedical Foundation. Priority authorization." Marcus stared at the words, unable to process them. "I don't understand. I didn't tell you all of this to ask for." "I know," Victoria said softly. "That's exactly why I'm helping. Marcus, I've spent 15 years building my company, making millions, telling myself that success meant being smart enough to put myself first. Then I met you, a man who had every reason to drive past, to protect himself and his child, but who risked everything for someone he'd never met. You reminded me what actually matters." Tears burned in Marcus's eyes. "Ms. Ashford. Victoria, please. Victoria, I can't accept this. It's too much. I didn't save you expecting anything in return. That's what makes you worthy of it," she replied. "Let me do this. Not as repayment, you can't put a price on a life. But because Emma deserves a fighting chance, and you deserve to know that good people don't always finish last." The words broke something in Marcus. He put his head in his hands, shoulders shaking with relief and overwhelming gratitude. Victoria reached across the table and squeezed his wrist gently. When he finally looked up, she was smiling. "There's one more thing," she said. "Ashford Biomedical is expanding our community outreach division. We need someone who understands what it means to struggle, who has real compassion, to help direct our assistance programs. The position pays well, with full benefits. I know you have experience in logistics. The job is yours if you want it." Marcus laughed through his tears, a sound of disbelief and hope. "Why are you doing all this?" Victoria's expression grew serious. "Because 3 nights ago, I was trapped in a burning car, and you taught me something I'd forgotten. We're all just one moment away from needing help. And the world is only as kind as we choose to make it." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the hospital corridor outside Emma's room, watching through the window as she played with a new set of colored pencils. The transplant had been successful. Her color had returned, her laughter had returned, her future had returned. Victoria approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She'd become a regular presence in their lives, Emma's honorary aunt, Marcus's friend and mentor. "She looks wonderful," Victoria said, standing beside him. "She is wonderful," Marcus replied. He turned to Victoria, this woman who had transformed their lives with her generosity. "I still don't know how to thank you properly." Victoria smiled. "You already have, every single day. You showed me what it means to be human when it costs something. That's not a gift everyone receives. Besides," she added, her tone lightening, "you're revolutionizing our entire foundation structure. Turns out someone with actual empathy is pretty valuable in a charitable organization." Marcus shook his head, marveling at the strange path that had led them here. "That night in the rain. I was so scared. Not of the fire or the danger, but of Emma being left alone. She's the only one I've ever loved who still needs me. That's what made you brave enough to stop," Victoria said quietly. "Love doesn't make us careful. It makes us courageous." Emma looked up then and saw them through the window. Her face split into a radiant grin as she waved enthusiastically. They waved back, 2 people who had saved each other in different ways, bound together by one stormy night when one man chose kindness over safety. As they walked into Emma's room, Marcus reflected on how a single moment of selflessness had rippled outward, changing 3 lives forever. He had stopped at that accident expecting nothing, and had received everything that mattered: hope, friendship, and a future for his daughter. Sometimes the greatest rewards come not from what we take from the world, but from what we're willing to give it, even when we have almost nothing left to give.